Welcome to Scorched Earth and a general reading for the sign of Virgo, Sun, Moon or Ascendant for the month of May 2024. I hope you're well. I'm using the Tarot of the Abyss for you today. Before we begin, if the reading resonates and you'd like to go a little bit deeper, there will be an extended that you can access at the end. That's the first link in the description box. Links 2 and 3 are to my private community, the Order of the Phoenix, over on the Circle platform, and the 3-month overviews that I've done for each of the signs respectively. So if that's something that sounds like it might be of interest to you, please do feel free to go and have a neb around in the description box and avail yourself of those links. Right, Virgo, let's get on and see what's going on with you. Could I have 3 cards for Virgo, please? There we go. There's the first one. We have the King of Wands in your recent past. Now I have current energy for Virgo, please. We have the King of Cups. Lovely. That's Leo and Scorpio, respectively. And what's coming towards Virgo, please, for May? We have a cluster of cards. We have got the Ten of Wands, the Knight of Swords, and the Knight of Cups. Well, it doesn't really matter which way you cut it, Virgo. It seems like it's all about action at the moment. Sorry about the wire in the way there. It's not quite long enough to shove it out of the way. We've got the 3 of Pentacles at the bottom of the deck. Let's move these over so you can see them properly. It's funny, I've had to re-record most of the videos that I did for May because I had an audio issue, in so much as there was none. And in your reading, the first time I tried to do it, there was a sense that there was a pivot coming up, or decisions that needed to be made that would see you going off in a different direction to where you thought you were going. I think it was the two of Wands that came up in the May position, because things seemed like they were underway, and the decisions that needed to be made did not seem to be natural follow-ons from the efforts that you had already put in place. It seemed like this was something that was taking it off on a tangent. And it's interesting that we should have so much movement here. I mean, the kings indicate a level of movement because it's the active expression of the suit that they represent. And with the King of Wands, that's active. But the knights also indicate a degree of movement. Now, the fact that the Ten of Wands is here could speak either to the fact that something that has been rather burdensome is coming to an end, or it is the introduction of something that is now a burden that almost wasn't anticipated before, is the thing that's going to make you change direction. Let's get some clarifiers out on the table. I should just point out, with this 3 of Pentacles at the bottom of the deck here, we do have other influences outside of just you and what you want and what you're trying to head towards that seem to be at play at the moment. So the 3 of Pentacles is cooperation and collaboration. It's teamwork. It's the introduction of other influences, other people into a dynamic. But there's a sense that you're working together with them. Now, perhaps the introduction of new people is what is alleviating something that's been burdensome for you. But let's get some clarifiers out and see what we've got going. Just noticed I've got the 3 of Pentacles at the bottom of the deck here as well. Tell me about this King of Wands. Why is he here? So we have the 7 of Swords. Wow. And the Wheel of Fortune. Tell me about the King of Cups, please. We have the Knight of Cups and the Page of Pentacles. Interesting. Tell me about the 10 of Wands and the Knight of Swords with the Knight of Cups, please. 7 of Wands. The Strength card. And let's get one more for this. Oh, there it is, the High Priestess. I've got a card fell down here as well. It's the Hanged Man. It's interesting. I'm just going to put the Hanged Man there, actually. And we've got that Queen of Swords at the bottom of the deck. This reading is riddled with energies of other characters. Now we can see the king or the kings in their respective presentations as movement, right? The considered conscious movement in a direction, right? So in terms of what you're doing, in terms of what you're feeling and how you're expressing that. And we can see the knights as either movement, right? Things gathering apace and moving a little faster than you were possibly ready for with that Knight of Swords there. Or we can see these as characters too. Now, depending on whether these are people, and the fact that the Three of Pentacles has shown its face twice now makes me feel like people are a huge part of what's happening here for you. I just want to run through the signs so that maybe if these mean anything to you, all the good. We've got Leo, we've got Scorpio, we've got Gemini, we've got Pisces, we've got Pisces, we've got Pisces, we've got Pisces, and we have Leo again over here. Wheel of Fortune can indicate Sagittarius. Queen of Swords can indicate Libra. Pages are kind of like wild cards. They don't really have a astrological assignation. But if this is all energies, there's something almost chaotic about it. But at the same time, there's an underlying order, which I find really, really intriguing. And what do I mean by this? Well, hopefully over the course of this reading, I'll start to explain what I mean by this. But we start with the King of Wands over here. And like I said, active. The kings represent activity of some description because they are the active representations of the suit. But Wands is also about activity too. It's about experience. It's about doing, ultimately. So when the King of Wands shows up, we know that we're doing something, we're being very active, we're investing time and energy into something. And, whether it's the initiation of something or whether it's some carrying through, because the fixed signs tend to carry the season, right? Whatever season they represent. So they come to represent responsibility, duty, consistency, stamina. Now, stamina is a big one with the King of Wands. And it's about getting really stuck in there. We have it with the Seven of Swords and the Wheel of Fortune. Now, I like this Wheel of Fortune here because it feels like the King of Wands is actually initiating something that is causing a change, a movement of sorts for you, right? It's like pulling everything together and all the cogs starting to turn. It does also speak to me about kind of grasping hold of a lesson that the universe has been trying to feed to us for a little while and finally working out what it is that we were supposed to learn. I'm going to just show you this card here for a second. There it is. You'll see that we have the 4 fixed signs depicted on each corner of the card. So we have Aquarius, Scorpio, Taurus, and Leo. But they all have books. They're all studying. And you don't see this on the World card, which also has the 4 fixed signs on. So we've got a kind of midway point where there's either knowledge or information or something that's being gathered and synthesized and understood, and this has the effect of changing our circumstances. Certainly it changes the way that we think about things, but it changes what we feel like we are capable of actually effecting, and such like. This 7 of Swords as it is here, and we've got a 7 of Wands over here, is quite interesting because both of these 7s are on their sides. And 7 is a number that we associate with kind of pushing the envelope with things, right? Pushing the boundaries of stuff. It's quite an isolated number, as in it likes to isolate itself. Just interesting fact in numerology, we talk about each number being everything that the number before it wasn't. And the number 6 is about togetherness. It's about family. It's about coming together in community and all that kind of thing. The 7 is a bit more isolated because it's giving itself the space to push on its own ideas, right? Expand out internally first, but then coming back to find a way to utilize that to help them become more powerful, which is what we would see in the 8, right? So I think it's really interesting that we see both of these 7s lying on their sides. Not because you're not thinking about things, but potentially because you are coming out of a state of isolation. And I think we've talked about this quite a bit, Virgo, over the course of the last few months, this need to kind of exit the cave and get out there amongst people. But where the 7 of Wands is about defensiveness, potentially, it means other things too. The 7 of Swords can speak to dishonesty, duplicity, deceitfulness, and whatnot, which may or may not be in other people around you and something that perhaps you've discovered and are now moving away from. Or it can speak to taking a risk and being strategic. Now, the fact that we've got the King of Wands there, who is brave and courageous, and we have the Wheel of Fortune, which is indicating some sort of turn in one's fate and destiny. And then we have the Seven of Swords being like, whoa, I'm getting ready to start taking a leap, right? To start engaging in what feel like riskier behaviours because I'm putting myself out there. Not quite there yet, but it's certainly on the turn. And then we have that Queen of Swords there who is trying to unpack the meaning of all of this. Like I said, there's something kind of inherently chaotic about the energies that are around here at the moment, but you don't feel to me necessarily like you've been being rushed into it. It's like each step has been decisive, it's been brave, it's been bold, and it's been exactly what you needed to do at the point that you did it. But you're not taking any steps before you truly understand why it is that you are doing it in the first place. And I think that that's commendable. I really, really like that. I just glanced at the clock and it was 11:11 in terms of the video length when I actually said that, which is interesting in and of itself. And then we move into your current energy. Then we move into your current energy. Then we move into your current energy. And the reason that I'm making a distinction between the two is that this is a natural follow-on from what we're seeing here. It's actually interesting that it's happening that way around and not t'other, frankly, because obviously the King of Cups and the Knight of Cups are dealing with one's emotionality. I know that's not a word, I've just made it up, but our state of being internally, what is our emotional reaction to whatever it is that is going on outside of us, or even indeed what is going on inside of us. And I think with this King of Cups and this Knight of Cups, this energy that we're talking about you kind of coming out of where you have been, much more comfortable in being seen and much more ready to start engaging with the world on a level that is authentic, for sure. But that's not really the word that I'm looking for. There's something here. Maybe I must pull out this wild unknown actually and just put this to the side for a second. Because we've got initiation with the Page of Pentacles, but more than that, we have an idea of value. I always think this when we see this Page of Pentacles. And he's the beginning of the suit of Pentacles, obviously the hierarchy of the Pentacles. So there's an initiation there with the Page of Pentacles. But I do think that he's looking at that pentacle and he does think it's the most beautiful thing that he's ever seen. And, in the little narrative that I've written in my head about what this card is about, there's a dedication to, a commitment to something that has value here. Now, whether that's a state of one's own personal value, that's possible, or whether it is things like principles and integrity and whatnot, or whether it's a project or some sort of creative endeavour that you want to be engaged with. The point is, there's something starting here, and it's like you've emotionally connected with it. And the maturity that the dedication and commitment to this is bringing, it's helping you come out of wherever it is that you've been. It's helping you engage with the world on that level that you've kind of hoped for a long time that you could get to, but had always seemed just a little bit out of reach. Tell me about this King of Cups and Knight of Cups. What do we need to know about them? King of Wands. I mean, God, you're busy. You're really busy, Virgo. And we also have the Ace of Wands. Holy shit. And the Three of Wands. Well, fuck me. Nine of Cups at the bottom of the deck. There's a lot that seems to have been falling into place for you emotionally. And I wonder if what's been happening back here is that you kind of talked yourself into doing something, even though you weren't necessarily emotionally ready for it. To your own mind, at least. You're like, well, journey of 1,000 miles starts with a single step. Let's just get the fucking first step over and done with and see where we go from there. And what's happening is that it doesn't feel like it's quite as uncomfortable as you thought it would be. In fact, there's something that's now starting to simmer slightly within you. And it feels like there's a rededication of effort and energy and intention going towards something. Now, when I'm saying something, like I said, it could be some sort of creative project. It could be some sort of significant life change for you. But that really just does feel like it's a point of attention. The big work is all happening in here. So we've got the Ace of Wands, which is new creativity, and whatnot. But in both the case of the Ace of Wands and the Three of Wands, what we're often seeing is a changed behavior. Right? I have done these things this way for so long, and obviously it's going to be uncomfortable if I change that, but I'm going to do it anyway and see what happens. And although you've been treading carefully, it's like the catastrophism hasn't really hit. You know, what it was that you were concerned about, what it was that you thought you may not be able to deal with emotionally, it turns out it's actually fine. And that feels slightly startling as I'm reading this here. Not only is it fine, like you're actually incredibly comfortable with it. And I think there's this kind of almost like a feedback loop. You're doing things and you're like, well, I was expecting this to be difficult. It's not difficult. I was expecting this to be uncomfortable. It's not actually as uncomfortable as I thought it was. The discomfort is in the idea of doing the thing rather than doing the thing. And in fact, once you do the thing, there's a lot of energy in you at the moment, Virgo. And although you're being very methodical and very cautious about how you're letting it out, there's a build of potential here. I wonder if this is where the slight feeling of chaos is coming from. Just because you seem to have tapped into something that is of the nature of pure potential, which is inherently chaotic anyway. And maybe where the comfort is that you are able to create this kind of order out of this very raw, very pure energy and intention and action. And it is actually taking you somewhere. It's funny, that Jupiter-Uranus conjunction that happened last month, it wasn't really just a one-day deal. What was it, April 20th, something like that. I mean, there's a 3-degree orb of influence there. So right, we had the 3 degrees on the run-up to, 3 degrees away from. But really, when two planets come together, what they are doing is resetting the cycle between themselves. And this cycle is going to last like somewhere around 14 years. And so what's happening here in this period is that new seeds are being sown that will see themselves play out over the course of the next 14 years. But whenever Uranus is involved, there is quite often somewhat of a quantum leap forwards. Now, it's interesting, when I did the reading for Scorpio, it felt jolty. It's like I drew the correlation of when you get on a roller coaster and the thing first takes off and you can feel the power of it kind of jolting you forwards. It's not smooth like a train, it's quite jolty. That was the feeling that I had with Scorpio. With you, it feels much more controlled and it feels a lot less jolty, but it feels like just a little bit at a time. Just see how it goes and it's fine. Okay, this is good. I'm good with this. This is okay. And being slightly surprised by yourself that you are managing this so well. Like I said, you do seem to be creating some sort of order out of what could be and what might have been for you a year ago, overwhelmingly chaotic. Now, it's okay. It feels all right. And I think that this is a really good place for you to be when we see what happens in the rest of May. Because now let's just draw your attention to this Hanged Man down here. This Hanged Man is about changing your perspective on things, but it's also about a submission. Submission to the energies of the universe, submission to the situation in front of you. Right? Submission to change quite often. But, the inverted positioning is to see the world from a different perspective. Now, as you're going through this process of emergence from wherever you've been into where you are going, and now that you're more actively engaged with the process of it, rather than thinking about it and feeling it and going, I'm not sure I enjoy this very much, I'm not sure I'm going to like this, maybe I'll just stay here for a little bit longer, but, kind of gradually allowing yourself to come out. I do feel like it's not just your view of situations that is changing. I think it is your view of yourself that is changing. And that's incredibly powerful. We know how powerful that is. But the fact that you're able to manage your emotions and keep yourself on a level while it is happening, particularly if you know instinctively that the energies are very chaotic at the moment. I feel like a lot of you are really proud of yourself in the way that you're dealing with stuff at the moment. And as you should be. Because it's no small thing to keep all of your marbles together while the world is doing what it's doing at the moment. I was listening to Joseph P. Anthony, he's an astrologer on YouTube, the other day, and he was talking about the extent to which the actions of the sun actually affect us on a psychological and emotional level. And some, largely we're completely oblivious to this happening, but we are all susceptible to it. And I think most Virgos know how chaotic everything is. Like, I've made this point before. It feels to me like Virgos are incredibly, like almost uniquely sensitive to their environment, and so when things are shifting and changing around, it can trigger a sense of panic. It can trigger a sense of fuck, and this isn't right, I don't like it, and now it's completely destabilizing me, and I no. Whereas what's happening here, and it feels very strong, is that all of those things outside of you are unsettled, and that's okay because you are able to order for yourself a route through it. So when we move into May, we've got the Ten of Wands, we've got the Knight of Swords, and we've got the Knight of Cups. So there is still movement, and that's very, very important. Oh, good Lord, look at that. We had the Queen of Swords hiding under there, and I didn't even see her. And I think that's probably quite significant also. The Ten of Wands indicates burden. Right? We see someone here who's bent over, he's carrying all of these ones. And the one thing that I always think about with the Ten of Wands, which is a Sagittarian card and so has a kind of chaotic Sagittarian feel about it anyway, is that it indicates a situation where we have made things difficult for ourselves inadvertently. The question that I ask is always like, do they need all of those ones? Did they need them all at once? Did they have to carry them like that? Or was there a more sensible way to carry them? All of these questions, I feel, help us make sense of the disorder around us and certainly make us much more efficient as human beings when we're looking at something and going, why the fuck did I do it like that? Like, that was stupid. It was our emotions that made us do it that way. Metaphorically speaking, It's not actually about carrying sticks and whatnot. I love the fact that the Queen of Swords has shown up here with the Ten of Wands. I really, really love that. And I love the fact that actually she was hidden behind the Knight of Swords as well. Because as we were looking at it like that, I was like, well, things are going to get moving. Things continue to move. But now that the Queen of Swords is here, and like I said, she's under here making sense of each step before we do it. It adds even more credibility for me to the idea that you are questioning why you have done certain things, why you would do them a particular way, if it needs to be done like that at all, right? It's creating efficiencies. And my Saturn and my Jupiter are in Virgo, so I love the idea of efficiencies and things being punctual and proper and orderly and all that sort of stuff. Not that you'd know it if you knew me in real life, because I'm quite a chaotic creature. But rather than the Ten of Wands here indicating a state by which you're like, fuck it, I've had enough, this is all too much, the Queen of Wands, the Queen of Swords now makes this a contemplative, almost forethought kind of energy. It's anticipating issues in advance and saying, right, how do I bring this all to a state of closure much more quickly so that I can concentrate on the more efficient way of doing things, on the things that are actually serving me rather than draining my energy away from me. And if we can just jump to this Seven of Wands and the Strength card here, both of whom make much more sense to me now that the Queen of Swords has arrived. We've got here a sense of not having to respond in the way that perhaps our subconscious, our nervous system, our emotions has been hitherto trained to do, but in fact assessing it ahead of time and saying, is this something that I want to give my energy to? Is this something that I need to fight for? I'm reminded of Sun Tzu, Art of War, like, if you are not under threat, don't go to war. And I think most of us, this is something I've actually been chanting to myself quite a lot over the last month or two, but the war's not been outside of me, the war's been very much inside of me. And that default state of being consistently at war with myself is something that I knew I had to do something about and wasn't quite sure how. I'm starting to get a handle on how to do that now. And the reason why I mention that is because I feel like there's something fairly similar going on for you here. So it's like, it's not complete non-reaction. It's saying, it's being very discerning, as the Queen of Swords is, and saying, okay, hang on, objectively, do I actually need to emotionally react to this? Now, you couldn't be at that point without all of the work that's gone in with the Knight of Cups and the King of Cups over here, and even the supportive influence of the Wands here, all speaking to the way that you are consciously changing the way that you act. You're changing the way that you behave. You're changing the way that you experience the world, in the interests of making everything smoother, more orderly in a way that works for you, but simpler too. I don't know about you. I'm obviously, the moon is in Taurus, not the moon is in Taurus, the sun is in Taurus at the moment, and I'm very much feeling that Taurian desire to make things simpler. Now, where Virgo sometimes struggles is the need to break everything down into its component parts till it becomes completely overwhelming and it's difficult to see the bigger picture. I feel like you're drawing back and seeing the bigger picture in May, and being very discerning about what needs to be broken down into its component parts and what frankly is not worth your attention. And that's particularly true if there are some characters around you who are a little bit shady. I mean, to be fair, every single one of these court hierarchy cards have shown up in the upright. So I think it's unlikely that there are people acting in a duplicitous way around you. But there's a lot going on, and there's the potential for it to be incredibly overwhelming. And there's a big picture that you have a connection to that has been missing for a long time. And it's by reference to that bigger picture that you are being assisted in being able to work out what is worth your attention and what is not, what is worth breaking down into its little bits and what is not. Where are we overcomplicating it for ourselves? Where are we carrying too many wands? And where actually is the sensible way of doing things? And I think the Strength card showing up sideways here is also incredibly important, because there is a pursuit of one's own strength coming back here, or power, right? Because it's numbered 8. It's generally to do with power and where it goes. You know, are you putting your power and your energy into becoming more powerful, or are you disempowering yourself? And actually, in a lot of situations that happen day to day, we can see it being literally a binary of one or the other. And I think the discerning energy of the Queen of Swords is helping you consider that almost on the fly as it's happening, right? Is this something that I need to deal with? Is this something not? Do I need to spiral about this? Do I need to think about this more? Do I need more information? We've got the Knight of Swords there. What month are we in? May. Interestingly, Jupiter is moving into Gemini. at the end of this month. I think it's May the 25th. And that's going to see the very nature of information being something that becomes increasingly, I think, overwhelming for people. There's just so much information and very little to indicate as to whether it's true or not. That things could get quite confusing if we did not have our own internal Queen of Swords making the decision about where our attention is going to go and where it is not. This big picture that you've got might well be based on the potential for some sort of creative project or some sort of material shift, right? A different job, a different home, moving, those kind of things. Or it's simply about creating a new kind of order in your life. Whatever it is, I feel like this Pisces energy that's all over this reading for you is speaking to not only just not only speaking to an increased acceptance of things being the way that they are, which is really, really important when we start thinking about the nature of perfectionism and what that kind of thing is. Like the fact that we can put it to one side and say, actually, that it is okay that that's not perfect. It's okay that I don't have 10 wands in my basket. It's okay that this, that, and the other, right? It's being much more self-supporting and indulging in it's not indulging, right? Really taking self-care seriously. But there are a lot of movements here that seem to be very intuitive for you in terms of processing whatever it is that is coming towards you. I mean, the whole of May seems to be lots of new information coming to light, but you being in a much better position to be able to weigh that and assess that and discern whether it's important for you to take that on board or not than you have been at any other point in time. Now, bringing in that the first reading that I did for you, it was a bit defunct. I did say that I felt like there were decisions that were going to be made that were not necessarily a direct, following a direct line of travel that you had anticipated that you were following. It seems like there was something tangential about them that was going to have you moving in a slightly different direction. And to be honest, I am feeling that is that's still operative. But what's more important is the fact that you understand that whatever is coming up in May is not beyond your capacity to work it. It's not beyond your capacity to deal with without getting overwhelmed, if you see what I mean. Whereas just a couple of months ago, these things popping up would have been like, fuck, no, this is too much. I need to retreat back. It's a funny feeling of you coming out from behind and getting right up front, Virgo, on something. I feel like your social circle is probably increasing. And if it isn't exactly a social circle increasing, then it's an awareness of there being people who are also making their way, creating their own little state of order in amongst the chaos. And that you plus them could be more than the sum of your parts, in so much as you can do much more together than you can do separately. And likely you're going to be intuitively guided to those people. Like, whatever your plan is now, likely by the end of May, it's adjusted. It's turned into something else. But I think the more that you can flow and be flexible with that, be of the nature of Pisces about that, who is your opposite sign, obviously, then, oh, fuck me, even that's a Pisces card, actually, there, the Nine of Cups. There's a lot of Pisces energy on here. And even the fact that we're looking at things from for a Virgo, looking at things from an inverted perspective would be your opposite sign in the zodiac. Looking at things more like a Pisces and be able to flow around issues, flow like the water, go around the thing rather than trying to go through the thing, rather than trying to break it down into its component parts and then put it together into something that is less offensive. It's just flow, it's be fluid, it's move around. And be aware that I just pull something for this High Priestess here. There you are. Four of Cups. King of Cups. There isn't anything that's coming up this month that cannot simply be flowed around. If the King of Wands had been up here in the May part of your reading, I would have said that maybe there was a need to sort of hit things head on a little bit, even to a degree the King of Cups, but not quite so much, right? We've got the feistiness of the Wands. But that's not what we're seeing here. What we're seeing is objectivity. We're seeing that in the sword suit. We're seeing clear thinking. We're seeing discernment. But we're also being matched on all levels by the emotional responses. You see how the fire cards, as if you will, both of these being Leo, we've got Mars in Leo and just Leo there, are kind of set back. There's not a lot of reactivity here. There's flow. And the message that seems to be underpinning all of the cards is that it's your self-confidence that seems to be carrying you this month. And allow yourself to be carried by it. Allow yourself to be carried by the flow of what's happening here. So we have the Son of Pentacles there, which is Knight of Pentacles, Virgo card. We have the creation of things. Well, we have discipline, we have commitment, we have those sorts of things, right? But we have a continuation of Page of Pentacles energy to Knight of Pentacles energy. Things are still moving. But this is coming out underneath the High Priestess. So we have divine guidance, possibly, higher guidance coming in. Certainly intuition and openness and nudges, little intuitive nudges and whatnot, that are guiding you on a path. The disciplined, committed, order-creating path. We have the Four of Cups there, which may have been enough to throw you off that path in the past. But it's come up here with the King of Cups. And the King of Cups is, we don't sweat the small stuff. We don't need to sweat the small stuff because we're actually focused on where we're going. So whatever comes up this month and whatever direction that has you shifting into, acceptance is the key for everything. Just for now. There will be points later on in the year, I feel, where control of a situation will be more important. But we're trying to create efficiencies here, and some of those are efficiencies that have not occurred to the mindset that you have held. The flow here is creating the new mindset, and you're working with it and understanding as it's going. So for now, while you're on the river and while you're flowing, let the current take you. When it's time to disembark, you will know. That's really interesting. All right, I'm going to go over and do the extended now. So if you would like to join me over there, you're very welcome to do so. You can do that on Vimeo, or you can do that on Circle. If this is where we part ways, that's absolutely fine. There are going to be some twists and turns in the river as it flows, and that's fine. Right? Don't start necessarily scrabbling for land as soon as the river starts to change direction. Just go with it for a little bit longer and know that whatever comes up is absolutely fine. It's part of your path. It's what you're here for. But lean into cultivating a very open set of thought processes, particularly where they challenge the way that you might have done things before versus a way that is starting to show itself as potentially open to you moving forwards. Because that's where the biggest leaps forwards, I feel, are available to you. There's a lot of energy around you at the moment, Virgo. And I think it's commendable the way that you're managing it. I really do. Right, I'm going to leave it there. Know that I love you all very, very much. And I'll see you soon.